Shout out to EA and Respawn for letting me see some of Season 17 early. In this video, I'll cover everything that I know that is coming in the new Apex Legends arsenal. Stick around because I have some exclusive first looks at the new legend, the updates to World's Edge, and much more. Let's get right into it. The first major change is the firing range overhaul. Now, this update is much more than what's been initially speculated by some people, but they have created a whole new map for the firing range, and it's packed with some really sick things. First off, it has a Kings Canyon vibe to it. I don't know if they built this off of a part from Kings Canyon. It was tough to kind of tell from what I saw, but it looks huge. They've updated the dummies, and they can now be toggled on to shoot back at you with various difficulty settings. They added so many new targets so that it looks like you can practice different drills. There's now buildings here so you can emulate some of the more real Apex scenarios that you'll find yourself in. They have doors, windows, etc. And doors can be a huge skill gap in Apex, so I think this change will help so many players learn how to use them better and find out the nuances behind how they work. There's now a movement course that was added, and I don't know all the specifics regarding this, but it definitely looks sick. They also added a 1v1 dual pit. Now, this seemed to look like an even better spot than in the original firing range area where people 1v1, because this is now an actual pit with a ton of cover, and it looks fairly symmetrical. Now, you can still only have 3 players in the firing range, but friends can now join you in there if they'd like to. This is a small but really great change, as anytime you were in the firing range alone, or even with one of your friends and you wanted your other friend to join, you'd have to leave, go back to the lobby, and then load back in. This firing range update seems to have everything the community has been asking for a really long time, and I'm really excited to test it out. Okay, the second major change is regarding the pinging system. I think they've completely overhauled this to make it more in line with being able to communicate more effective words through pings. So some of the new pings that they added on the normal wheel are going to be avoid this area, enemy audio here, enemy activity here, and a regrouping ping. Now, these 4 pings are actually going to be huge, and they'll be added in addition to some of the pings that were there previously. They also added when someone is downed, instead of just being able to ping help and enemy here, you're able to now ping do not revive, enemy healing, enemy reviving here, and help me, aka res me lifeline. Lifeline! Res me! And when you're flying, you can now ping where you want to loot, where to avoid, where to go, and where an enemy is. Lastly, though, you'll be able to ping from your map, crafting stations, ring consoles, and survey beacons. Now, I'm just going to say it, you're going to want to learn these pings and learn to listen for them too. If you solo queue, or even if you don't, these pings are going to be much stronger for squads that communicate, and I believe it will lead to more coordinated squads in this new upcoming season. I think this is once again a great quality of life change that Apex is added. Now, also coming in this new season is a new survival item called the evac tower, and this thing actually looks pretty sick. Similar to a mobile respawn beacon, you'll call this in, and within a few seconds it will deploy a skydive balloon for you and your squad mates to use. You can use this to make larger rotations. Now, I don't have the official numbers here, but this thing can be destroyed. All I was told was that it'll generally take some team firing in order for it to go down. So to me, that means it's probably going to take more than 150 damage in order to get it destroyed. If it's not destroyed by an enemy, after a certain amount of time, the balloon will just naturally expire and disappear. But it is important to note, once a team does take the balloon, it will disappear. So it's a one-time use for one team. If you're taking the balloon, and let's say you're the last one on it, and the balloon gets destroyed before you've reached the top and deployed, you're gonna fall to the ground, similar to what happens when a Valk ult gets shot down before Valk reaches her peak in the air. But this item is going to be huge for all of Apex, because it's really gonna bring in a whole new level to the different legend comps that will be used. It appears no longer will you need to run a Valkyrie in order to make some of these large rotations across the map. Now, they did say it's not as good as Valkyrie's ult, but I'm eager to see how this plays out in the meta, especially in ranked. Okay, so now we know that there's been a ton of rumors regarding a World's Edge update, and I know some of the community is cheering on for Fragment to be destroyed. But the changes are not what most people are thinking. I've got some good news and some bad news, and all that will depend on how much you like World's Edge. The bad news for some is Fragment is changing, but the good news is it's still going to have buildings and even a new addition within the POI. Remember, World's Edge is healing, not getting more destroyed. And the best news is it's not just Fragment that is receiving some changes, it's multiple different areas on the map. But let's start with Monument, formerly known as Fragment East and West. It appears they've relocated one of the most popular zipline buildings buildings, that one being the big 6-story in West Frag. Now I'll tell you where it's headed in a moment, but the 4-story building, aka Streamer Building, is still intact and it actually looks fully repaired. The 5-story zipline building in Northwest Fragment is flat out removed, and the lava throughout Fragment is now traversable. And this just means it will be like all of the other lava on World's Edge, meaning if you fall down into it, you won't be getting sent back up, but it looks like there's some more mechanisms to get out of the lava if you wind up down there. They've added a new spot called the Museum, and this is an actual museum to showcase some of the developers and their work on Apex. It looks like they've added some initial concepts of certain things that they've added in the game over the seasons, like replicators and crafting metals. Now there's plenty of other good stuff about this place, but I gotta talk about some of the other changes. Lava City is being fully revamped. It's now going to be called Stacks, and Stacks is going to be for all of the zipline enjoyers. It's going to have plenty of them. It's going to have that 6-story building that we loved in Fragment, but it's going to bring a whole new feel to that side of the map. It also appears to connect more to Big Mod. I mean, they're still separate, but I don't know. It's going to have plenty of space and plenty of new ways to play on World's Edge. As far as the rest of the changes to World's Edge, here's what I know. There's going to be a new loot vault in Skyhook. They've added some snow there. Trials has received an update. The lighting and skybox is changed. And one of my favorite changes is Harvester is seeing some quality of life updates. It's hard to exactly explain this one, but let's just say landing in Harvester is going to be much, much easier than it ever has been before. Oh, and Mirage Voyage is staying on World's Edge, but will be removed from Stormpoint and Broken Moon. Now, this next thing is actually something I'm really excited about, and this has been something a lot of the community has been asking for really since Apex came out, and this is going to be the Weapon Mastery System. Now, this is ultimately a new form of progression, and I'm sure if I had to guess, more things like this will be following along in the future. But here's how the new Weapon Mastery System will work. It's going to let people flex their proficiency with every weapon in the game by earning weapon XP and completing difficult challenges across all modes. Once players progress to specific milestones, they'll unlock in-weapon trials. They have to then complete those trials to earn rewards such as weapon-specific badges, trackers, legendary banner frames, and a legendary weapon pack. You can try to master every weapon in the game to unlock special weapon master rewards, but this needs to be achieved in-game. You can't just go into the firing range and try to master all of the weapons. But here's how the specifics work. You'll start at level 1, and this will not reset after each season. So if you start progressing and you can't play a ton, but then you pick it up next season, you're going to start right where you left off, which is great. But there's damage, kills, fighting with style, and all of these things will give you XP. There's 20 levels, then you go through a trial. You test those skills, you then get a reward up to 100, but you have to finish 5 trials. Then you win the final reward, which is the trackers, banner frames, legendary skin, etc. This system will actually entice players to grind the game more, and it will feel like they're working towards something. And I know we all really enjoy that, especially in a game like Apex. So I'm eager to see how it plays out. Last and certainly not least, let's talk about the new legend, Ballistic. First, let's dive into his abilities. His passive is called Sling, and this will allow him to carry a 3rd weapon. But this weapon can have no attachments, so it'll just be the base gun. However, if you're playing in the mixtape playlist where weapons have attachments, Ballistic will be able to use a blue weapon, but it will just downgrade it to the base weapon. Ballistic won't be able to use care package weapons or gold weapons as his 3rd weapon. His tactical is called the Whistler Smart Pistol. This will lock onto a target and it will overheat that player's weapon, also causing them damage. As you can see in this clip, it doesn't seem like this needs to be accurate for it to connect to an enemy. As the enemy walks into this range, the bullet seems to follow them. And the way I understand it is this will not cause any hindrance to the player's movement or abilities, but it will solely affect their weapon for a short while regarding how much they can shoot. This clip also shows the enemy player taking 50 damage, which I think is very interesting. As the enemy shoots more, it will fill up a meter. That player takes the damage and then the meter goes away. I think I'll have to test this ability out more when the season drops to see the real specifics of how good this is and what's the outplay potential for enemies. Ballistic's ultimate is called the Tempest, and when he activates this, it gives a buff to him and his teammates. The teammates have to be within a certain range for this to work, but it gives everyone infinite ammo, faster reload speeds, and Ballistic's 3rd weapon will become gold kitted for the duration of the ult. It's important to note that when Tempest is activated, it won't take any ammo away from your inventory, so whatever you start with is what you should end with. This ability will also work the same for Ballistic if he's solo in a match, but it's clearly an ultimate focused on helping Ballistic and his teammates. It seems that this legend will be good at initiating and focusing on a single target, but clearly more will be revealed regarding how this legend stacks up against the current legend meta. Make sure you guys are subscribed, as I'm going to drop a video very shortly after this on the ranked changes. In the meantime, if you haven't seen this video yet, you're going to want to check it out next. Thanks for watching. Peace.